7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Okay, so I'm back with another recap of the Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episode 5, Valhalla. So, I mean, a whole lot didn't happen in this episode, so this shouldn't be very long. So, it opens up in 1962 in Cape Canaveral. This box arrived from the Congo, and inside the box, you see Baby Pogo. So, it goes into the backstory of how they experimented on him, and actually, the woman who was his date and who was the prototype for their mom was actually a scientist. And so it goes through the backstory of them testing him, running experiments on him, and he actually ended up injecting him with something because there was this accident, and he injected him with some kind of formula that basically saved his life. And you can tell that she was really attached to Pogo. She really loved Pogo, and so she was kind of devastated at when they thought that he wasn't going to make it. And so she was very grateful for Hargreeves when he came out with this syringe full of whatever this liquid is. I'm assuming it's the same thing that they injected Luther with when he got injured, which is what caused him to have this massive frame. But at the time in the 60s, I'm assuming she really didn't know what that was. But anywho, so then we go to Lila, Diego, and number 5. So they're still outside the party. The guests are still leaving, and number 5 was basically like he basically threatened her and said, "If I ever see you again, I'm going to kill you." And she's like, "Well, I just saved your life." He said, "That's the point. For somebody who's supposed to be just some regular woman that he met in some institution, you fight too well, and there's just something off about you, and I don't trust you, and I don't want to see you again." And so he walked off, and Diego was like, "Well, he has a point." And so she, they started going back and forth a little bit, and he was like, "Well, wait a minute, why would you go and help him and not help me?" And so she goes, "Well, he's a kid and you're a man, so you should act like it." So she then goes into insulting him, and he basically said, "I'm used to being lied to, but I would at least know what I'm being lied to about," and something, it was just like he felt like obviously that she's not giving him, he doesn't have all the information, he doesn't really know her. And so he left with number 5, like, "We don't know you, and there's something up about you." And that was the end of that. So Klaus, he wakes up on Allison's kitchen floor, and Ben is like, he's just telling him that he needs to take better care of himself. And Allison walks in, is like, "Who are you talking to?" And he was like, "Oh, she said, "What ghost are you talking to now?" And he said, "Nobody special, just someone ugly and uninterested." He said something, and Ben was like, "Oh, that's cold." they got too funny together. And so he wanted Allison to sit and have a drink with him, and she was like, "I'm not going to enable you." And so they talked a little bit, and he talked about how her marriage was, in shambles, and the protest didn't work. And so, they sit for a minute and talk, and she decided instead of drinking out his flask that she was going to make something, she was going to make them some cocktails or something. So he was happy, and I'm assuming that's how they spent their morning. So Sissy and Vanya, it's the next morning. They wake up in bed together. The whole pillow talk of them running away together because Sissy's clearly not happy. And as they were talking, a car pulls up, and his car, he gets back early, so obviously they have to get out of bed and try to get themselves together. We flash to Luther. So Luther is now in Elliot's law. So it's Luther, number 5, Diego, and Elliot, and they're talking about their father, and they're talking about the assassins, and they talk about how they need to get in contact with their father. And Luther, he had revealed that he did try to contact their father when he first arrived. He actually took a Greyhound bus all the way back to their home. I don't know if it's Pennsylvania, Jersey, I'm not sure where the Hargreeves estate is, but he went there, and he he was talking to his father. This father basically told him that, "I don't like children. I would never have children. And at least if I did, they wouldn't smell, they wouldn't reek, because he's been this vagabond. He's in a time where he doesn't know anyone to have any money. So he's been kind of living like a hobo. So he did look pretty unkept. And so he was saying that, I would, if I did have a child, they would be, have a better representation than basically what's standing in front of me. You reek. I don't know you. I don't know who you were sent here by the CIA, whoever else, but you need to leave my house. And so he tossed him out. And so, she turned him away. So number 5 basically said we got 6 days before basically everything that we know is gone, and we need to focus on getting people back together. And they, they are really kind of like hesitant, like what exactly are we supposed to do? And so we have Vanya, who Carl. So it's, if they're up and dressed, and they are sitting down for breakfast, and Carl is telling the story about this big deal that he made, and he's like all over Sissy, and Sissy is kind of like telling him to stop, and you can see Vanya kind of looking at him. She's feeling some kind of way, and you can see Vanya is getting upset, and so she ends up making the window shatter, which obviously stops Carl from pawing Sissy. And then Sissy walks over and gets Harlan, and she's going to take him out. And Sissy was like, well, where you going? She's like, well, I just want to have some family time. And of course, Vanya, the conversation they had in bed about them running away together and taking Harlan. Of course, that was a pipe dream. It's the 60s. Even if they were to run away together, there's no way in the world that man would allow them to drag their son with. I mean, it was a different time. And so Sissy is just basically, you can see she's struggling, but she's really working to try to keep everything together. And so you have Lila and the handler, and so she walks in with her mom, and so she was like, "You set me up." And so her mom, the handler, said, "Did you bring what I asked?" And what she wanted was one of Diego's knives, because he has very distinct knives that he fight with. And she was like, "Well, my cover's been blown, and who are these, these people? Because if they really knew that that we were all working together, like they was really trying to kill her too." And so her mother had to admit, okay, so I haven't been completely honest with you. The commission has no idea why we're here, that we're here. And she's saying that, she has this plan. I guess she's, trying to, by getting them out of the way, I guess it would restore her to her former glory and positions and all that. I'm assuming this is what she thinks she assumes is going to happen. And so, she, they kind of had their back and forth, and she patched Lila up because she had this bad cut on her arm. But she was, basically all will be revealed, in its own time. And so you have Elliot. So Elliot, Luther, Diego, and Vanya. Luther, Diego, and Vanya are at Elliot's place, and so they're waiting for number 5 to come back with Allison and Klaus. And so they're sitting around talking, and Elliot is going on about this dish he made, and they're basically like, if we try it, will you shut up about it? And so he said yes. And so they tried the dish, and they started talking, and then eventually Allison and Klaus walks in, and they're able to say, of course, they're kind of taken aback because they haven't seen each other in so many years, and the interaction between Vanya and Allison was interesting. I thought that it was going to go a different way, because remember the last time Allison saw Vanya was after she actually spoke to her, was just before Allison cut her throat, and almost killed her. And so they say they hellos, and I guess she realized that, or maybe number 5 told her that she doesn't really have any memory of what happened before. And so it was like, they were starting, that everything was in the past, and they hugged. They were obviously happy to see each other. And so number 5 is telling them that, what they need to do. They have, there's so much time to get the stuff in order. And they're kind of hesitant. And so you see Lila and her mom. They're standing outside of the house where the assassins are living, and all of a sudden this canister comes down the fireplace, and it contains this note, and it actually has a photo of Diego and information on Diego. So Diego's now the new target, and so they're flashback to Ellie's place, and they're really just not they haven't worked together in so long. They don't really know what to expect. Luther is just like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with this. Maybe it's because we're always trying to fix stuff that we're causing all these problems, and he tries to walk away. Number 5 kind of teleports in front of him. He knocks him on out of the way, and number 5 ends up teleporting outside where he sees Lila, and then Lila runs off, and of course he pursues Lila, and Diego is behind Luther trying to convince him to stay. Klaus starts talking about how hungry he is, how he wants tacos, and they're like, maybe so it's like, maybe we should wait for them to come back, and they eventually leave to go get something to eat. And Diego and Luther are, going down this alley there. I'm like, okay, something's going to happen. You think something's going to happen because they're not really paying attention to what's going on around them. They're kind of in their conversation. Diego's working to try to convince Luther to stay, and Luther was like, I just don't want to be a part of this. It seems like everything that we do makes things worse. And so they get to the end of the alley, and Diego was like, there's a black car that's been following us since we left Elliot's place. And so it was this car driven by this elderly man who got out of the vehicle and handed them an invitation. And so the invitation was from their father, and he basically said that, you guys have been looking for me. Meet me at this place at this time. And so at this point, Diego and Luther are the only ones that know about this invitation. The next thing you see is Allison, Klaus, and Vanya is at Allison's salon, and she's venting about what's going on with Raymond and how he's just not talking to her, and so they had started talking about their relationships, and that basically their track record of having relationships, and how it just doesn't seem to work out for them. And eventually they decided that if the world's going to end, then they just may as well go for it. And so Vanya decided she's going to tell Sissy how she really feels. Allison decides she's going to tell Raymond the truth, and Klaus said he really needs to go back to his house and face his followers, but he's like, I really hate group breakups. That's why I stopped dating twins. He's just a hot ass mess, Klaus. So a song comes on, and they have them a good time dancing and just basically unwinding and having a few drinks, and just enjoying each other's company. So you see the assassins, they're in the woods. I guess that the information that was sent to them had some coordinates on it. They get to the woods. One of the twins, the assassins, one of them saw one of Diego's knives stuck in the tree, and so they're kind of looking, and it looks like it was the younger one who walked over, but it was a trap. He hit the trip wire, and it blew him up. So of course now the other two are standing there pissed. They see that the knife, and of course, like I said, Diego has these really very identifiable knives. So now, they kind of got what they wanted. This is the handler and Lila to have the assassins go after Diego. So Lila, he catches up with so number 5 catches up with Lila. She goes into this abandoned building, and they start fighting. I don't know if Lila can teleport as well like him, have the same ability, but he ends up getting the best of her, and number 5, the handler comes out, and he was like, well, basically after he had Lila on the ground, he told her, you can come out now. And so she was like, Lila was like, you're better than I thought you were. And so he was like, all you fighters, you all trained to fight the same way. So, he's trying to basically say it wasn't a big, really wasn't that hard. to best you. And so the handler comes out and she was like, oh, so here we are all together again, you little shit. And so Lila starts laughing. And so I go back to Vanya. So Vanya goes back to the farm, and she's determined she's going to tell Sissy how she really feels, and they can run her off together. I mean, just pipe dream. And so she walks in, and what she didn't notice was that there was the table setting, like Carl and Sissy had this romantic dinner, and Carl was actually waiting in the bedroom for Sissy when Vanya walks in, and she basically had to tell Vanya, like, I can't leave with you. And of course Vanya was devastated because she feels like they would be happy together, and they might be, but again, the times in which they live, it was just not. She's stuck with Carl. And I think that Sissy is slowly coming to realize that, or at least at this point. And so Vanya, she left the house, and she just kept on walking. So the assassins there, giving their brother a Viking funeral. I'm assuming that's what it would be described as. I don't know. So when they put whatever remains they could find into a boat, and they lit it on fire and put it in the lake, and they just watched it burn. And it was a very emotional moment for them. So they are pissed, and they are gunning for Diego. They can't wait to get their hands on him. So Klaus goes back to his house to confront his followers. Allison, she goes home to Raymond and basically tells Raymond that, okay, I'm ready to tell you everything. And that's basically how the episode ends. It wasn't a lot didn't happen, but I think the whole point was to bring all of them back together. Now they know, everybody is okay, and their family is there, and they were able to see each other. They haven't been able to see, a lot of them haven't been able to see each other in years. And I think that was the whole point of this episode. But it wasn't a whole lot, so I'm gonna end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.